What's up everyone, it's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be revisiting the Gate Guardian stuff as we'll be taking an adventure through our labyrinth. But before I begin, if you could happen to click on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons, it would be greatly appreciated as it goes a long way in supporting the channel and shows me that you like content like this. Clicking on those notification bells would also mean a lot as they help notify you when I upload on the channel. So for this replay, I kind of want to show how these cards work together as our opponent is going to start using the branded fusion, revealing that they're on Dinomorphia, as we won't be able to stop bringing out the Mirror Jade, but we will have the Book of Moon for that, as they're going to set the Ferret, Flame, Sonic, and Shell to pass, as then we're going to draw into a second copy of Water Enchantress, which isn't too great because it means that we have two Enchantress and two copies of the field spell basically, but we're going to Book of Moon the Mirror Jade, as we're then going to activate the Ghoul, and if you're playing around Ash, there will be some hands where maybe doing the water is correct, but in this certain replay it's not applicable, as we're now going to use water, which will get us the copy of Right, and now we're just going into board breaking mode, as we're going to get ourselves the token and the Fateful, use the Fateful's effect, which will get us the Griffin Rider. We'll then be able to pitch the Sangha, as we'll then use the effect of the Griffin Rider to bring itself out, triggering the Fateful, getting ourselves the Draco back, and we'll equip it to the token in order to bounce back the Mirror Jade, use our field spell in order to get ourselves a Suijin, and then from here we'll be able to activate another copy of the field spell, getting ourselves the Kazuijin, and this basically gives us 3 negations via the Gate Guardian Wind and Water, and the Omni negation of Griffin Rider, and this is kind of important to note because playing around floodgates, you have to remember that Wind and Water only stops the effect and doesn't destroy or anything of the sort, so you can't stop a skill drain or another floodgate with Wind and Water, which is where the Griffin Rider comes in very clutch, as you're able to play through multiple back rows that way. But from here we're going to see our opponent use the shell, getting themselves the token, and we're going to see a slight misplay, but not really, as we're going to attack with the Wind and Water, which is the misplay, and I say this because it does have the higher attack. We could have attacked with the Griffin Rider in order to trigger the Shadow in our graveyard and destroy it, then get 2450 damage with the Wind and Water. If you're wondering why the token is in defense mode, it's because the field spell stops anything lower than level 5 from attacking the turn they're summoned. But as you see, our opponent is on 4000 life points, so it doesn't really matter, as we're going to use the Ghoul in order to pop the token, and then we can attack with the Griffin Rider, putting them on 2000, so basically any of our monsters kill them, as they're going to draw a Dinomorphia trap for their turn, and this will basically end the game, as they don't have any out to this board, hopefully showing off some of the more basic concepts built into this deck. So in this second replay, and we'll be going second again I believe, as our opponent is going to start with the Fateful, we're then going to see them get the water in hand, as they're going to pitch it, use it in order to get the Right, as they'll then activate the Circular in hand, sending the Sigma. They'll activate the Right, getting themselves the token, as they'll then use the Sigma in order to bring itself back, triggering off the Circular and the Fateful, as they'll then be able to get their pair of searches, and from here we know 2 cards in their hands, so we'll then see the Exceed Summon of Alan Bershin, as we're going to hit that with the Imperm so that this kind of doesn't snowball. Mathmex don't really make any threatening boss monsters outside of maybe Avramax, and you can't target that, but it's really the Super Factorial that you want to play around, so we're going to see them go into their Link plays, as they're going to go into the Heat Soul, getting themselves a pair of draws, and from here we'll go on to our turn, as we're going to get a copy of the field spells. They're going to get a second draw, and this is a big draw, as now we have access to the Adventure Engine and to pieces of the Gate Guardian stuff, and we'll be able to reveal 3 here, as we're going to add a Book of Moon, and this is to make sure that our opponent can't pop off during their turn, but we're then going to activate the Right, as we'll get ourselves the token, we'll then get ourselves the Fateful, activate the Fateful, as they're going to Ash that, and this is just fine, as we have the Fusion deployment that we can use now, which is another synergy that the deck has, just being able to use the water or the Fateful for that matter, and then have that get hit by Ash, and then have your Gate Guardian play as Be Free is pretty nice, as we're going to trigger the Fateful off of the Causagen summon, and now we'll be able to use the Draco back, bouncing back the Heat Soul, and then from here we'll activate the field spell as we're going to get ourselves a copy of Suijin, and then we'll go into our Gate Guardian Wind and Water, as we're going to attack over the token now, going into our main phase 2, setting the 2 Book of Moons and ending our turn. So from here, we kind of just have to hope that our opponent doesn't have enough to push through 2 Book of Moons, as we know that they have the Super Factorial set, and our opponent does get the Water Enchantress, as they're going to add the Griffin Rider off the Fateful and then pitch the Water. They'll use the Water, getting themselves the right, and now they're going to activate the right, as we're going to negate that with the Wind and Water, as we don't want them to get the Omni negation, and they'll get the Super Factorial, which is completely fine as they don't have a Diameter in graveyard, so we'll then see that they're going to exceed into Alimbertion, and then from here we'll also see that they brought out the Griffin Rider. They're going to get these searches off the Alimbertion, and then from here we'll see them get the Diameter, as they're going to normal summon the Diameter. We're going to Book of Moon that, as we don't want them to get the negation, and you'll see that we're also going to Book of Moon the circular that they bring out, and this is mainly just to stop them from going into a second Alimbertion, but from here we're going to see them bring the Sigma out, and this forces them to making link plays, which is kind of what I wanted, as they're going to go into the Splash Mage off of the Lingaribo and the Sigma, and then they'll revive the Diameter for the Splash Mage, go into the IP Masquerena, and then from here they'll make the access code, and now they're going to start popping my board with the access code, which is pretty much fine, as they're going to hit the Wind and Water, and this is going to float into the Causagen. I revived Causagen in this specific scenario because it gives you the flexibility of either making the Thunder and Wind or the Water and Wind, and I think that those are the 2 best fusions outside of the Gate Guardians combined. So from here we're going to see our opponent keep popping our stuff as they're going to hit the field spell now, go into the battle phase, and the Causagen is going to come in so clutch, turning the access code to 0, and they're actually going to scoop on it, as we would be able to go into our turn, and all they have is an access code that can't really do much, with 2 sets that we can just attack over, as we would also be able to get the Griffin off of our Fateful in the next turn. Now for this next replay, and I know that all of them have had right and cool, and it's kind of because I want to show what the deck does. There are different combinations that you can get that are equally as good, like the books and the Imperms could be Fenrir's, along with Forbidden Chalice and stuff like that, but those are things I'll save for the deck list, as we see our opponent is on Plunder Runic, and we're going to activate the Shadow Ghoul, getting ourselves the field spell. From here we'll be able to activate the field spell. We'll then use its effect, which will get us the Causagen, normal summon the heavy tank, as we won't be using the right, as this is one thing about the deck you may be looking at where you do play the heavy tank and the right, and what you're doing is basically having one for follow-up and one for the turn when you happen to see both of them, and you do this because some hands may play better with the adventure stuff while other hands may play better with the Gate Guardian stuff. In this specific scenario, we happen to have the Imperm and the Book of Moon, so having 2 spell and trap negations off the Gate Guardian, Wind and Water could trade for more cards. We also have the Shadow Ghoul in the graveyard to give us further protection or even removal on our own turn. But from here we're then going to go into our Wind and Water, as we're going to set the Imperm and the Book of Moon, go to our opponent's turn as they draw another copy of Whitebeard, and then they're going to activate the Golden Hair, pitching the Whitebeard. They'll then be able to bring out the Golden Hair, trigger off the Whitebeard, as they'll be able to special summon out the Bluebeard, and then they'll be able to go into the Blackbeard, as they'll trigger off the Bluebeard, which will let them pitch one and draw one. They'll activate the Fire, as we'll respond with the Gate Guardian. They'll chain the Freezing Curse, as then we'll be able to chain the Book of Moon to that. We don't want them to get the Banishes, but they will chain the Blackbeard to that, as they'll then bring out the Exceed. I forget its name, but it's the one that banishes one, and gets the search for a Plunder Spell and Trap. But from here we'll then see them activate the Exceed in order to banish our heavy tank, and it has to be an effect monster that they banish, which is why they can't hit the Gate Guardian Wind and Water. And from here we'll go on to our turn where we see a copy of Water Enchantress. Again, not the greatest since we already have Right, but we'll be able to get a copy of Sangha with the field spells. This will basically get us out of any bricks in our deck, and we'll activate the Right, which will get us a token along with the Fateful. Activate the Fateful, as our opponent is then going to activate the Exceed in order to attempt to banish our Wind and Water, but we're going to chain the Imperm to that, and then from here we'll be able to get ourselves the Griffin Rider, as we'll then pitch the Water Enchantress, special summoning out the Griffin Rider now with its effect, and this will be able to trigger the Fateful, getting ourselves the Draco back. And now from here we can activate the Water Enchantress, which will get ourselves a copy of Right. We did put the Draco back in the Imperm column. This was my fault. It was late when I was playing this, so I do apologize for that. As we're going to then go into the battle phase, attack over his Exceed, as we do have to use the Shadow Glow. We don't have anything with over 2500 attack. And from there we'll go on to our opponent's turn where they'll draw a Destruction. They'll activate the Golden Hair, pitching the Whitebeard, and we don't want to respond to anything yet as we only have one Omni Negation. So from here we'll then see them get the Redbeard on board as they're going to go into the Brawn, and then from there they'll activate the Redbeard. We'll activate the effect of Griffin Rider on that. The reason that we did that is because they already had access to Brawn, which could beat over the Griffin Rider, so we were just protecting it. And they're going to activate the Tip here, which we're going to stop, as they're then going to activate the Destruction, and they'll pop the Fateful, which again is fine. They'll banish a few cards from the top of our deck, as we do see a Fenrir, and then we'll go on to our turn as we're going to get ourselves another copy of Shadow, which is nice. We'll be able to activate the field spell, getting us Causagen, activate the Ghoul, which will get us a second field spell, activate that copy of the field spell, as we'll then be able to fuse into our Thunder and Wind, and we'll use its effect in order to get us a search for the Wind and Thunder, and this is basically just a pop quick play. This is why I say the Thunder and Wind is another good fusion in this deck, because it searches you a quick play pop. And from here we'll be able to pop the Brawn, go into the battle phase as we put the token in attack mode, and this will give us enough damage for game, rounding out all the replays in this video. So onto the deck profile, and you'll see that we were able to manage keep 12 spaces for going second, as we didn't max out the Water Enchantress, did max out on the rest of the Adventure Engine. Foolish in order to be only a third copy of Water, but just an extra Gate Guardian piece. Sometimes you may need to go into your big guy. Foolish can get you there. So that's why I felt it was better than playing a third copy of Water Enchantress. Outside of that, everything is self-explanatory. These are basically 12 ways to get into your Gate Guardian pieces. Prosperities help you dig. Adventure stuff gives you Omni Negation that can help you against Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 3 responses to your Wind and Water. It also helps you against monster effects, which is kind of nice. And that's where also the Fenrir comes in. It's just another way to combat monsters. You'll see that we have the Book of Moons, the Forbidden Lands, Forbidden Chalices, and the Imperms to help with that as well. It's really what the deck feels like it struggles the most against, as the deck has its own ways to play around a lot of different stuff, whether it be the Gate Guardians combined, protecting itself from targeting, the Thunder and Wind getting you into a searchable pop, and then you also have the Water and Thunder can turn your opponent's monster's attacks into 0 twice per turn, and you have to target one of them in order to turn it into 0, but still helps you getting over stuff. It also helps that they all float back into the pieces, which can help you keep the game going longer than it should. Because people don't read, these cards here can come up pretty clutch in the battle phase, as well as these three. Outside of that, I think that's all there is to say. We'll get onto the card by card. We have the 3 heavy tank, the 3 ghoul, the 3 wall, the 3 deployment, the 3 right, the 2 water, the 1 foolish, the 3 prosperity, Longon, Causagen, and the Suijin, the Wind and Thunder, the Draco back, the Fateful, the Griffin Rider, the 3 Imperm, the 3 Chalice, the 3 Book of Moon, and the 3 Fenrir round out the main deck. We have the 3 Gate Guardians combined, the 3 Wind and Water, the 3 Thunder and Wind, 3 Water and Thunder, the 1 Big Eye, the 1 Draco Stack, and the Cherubini round out our extra deck. This is basically just for when you have to make a rank 7 with a Fenrir and a heavy tank to get into your adventure package. You can just go into Cheru. Or you have the Big Eye as rank 7 access. Don't use them too much as you saw, but they do come up. And for the side deck, we do play the Nibs, the Denkos, as you don't really need your normal summon like that. You can even side out the heavy tank for it. We have the 3 Twin Twisters as you do want to play around stuff like Anti-Spell and other floodgates. 3 evenly, and then for going first, I am putting in the 3 Solemn Judgment. In order to help you fortify some of your boards where you have the multiple spell and trap negations, you would also have a Griffin negation, potentially a Fenrir, and then adding Solemn to that just makes it infinitely better. Anyways, that's all for today's video, and if you made it this far, I thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. It's Bones, signing out.